Well, hello there, and welcome to a book launch livecast. I am Everett O'Keefe, the founder of Ignite Press. And today I'm going to introduce you to just a fabulous person and a wonderful author and the beautiful book that she has written. And you're going to be inspired. It's just going to be really fun. Now, before we go too far, I'll let you know that Ignite Press is here to help people get their messages out to the world. And so if you have written a book or you've just thought of writing a book and you're thinking, how do I get it out to the world? Reach out to us. I'd be happy to sit down with you and have a consultation. And you can find us at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. But let's get to the main event here. I mean, for crying out loud, I have brought here a wonderful person, Cecilia Carter, and we are launching her book today. Cecilia is known as the strategy chick, and you're going to hear that referred to. She is a renowned self-empowerment artist, an ICF certified coach. She blends intuitive coaching and her communications expertise. And this book contains so much of her great wisdom. So I am going to bring Cecilia on the screen. Hey, Cecilia, congratulations on your launch day today.
Everett, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share this moment with you. Many, many thanks to you and the Ignite team. And I just must also take a second to have a personal shout out to Kathy Fryack, who is my book coach, and also to my dear friend, Ruth Rathblott, who without I would not have had the pleasure of meeting and working with both of you.
Well, okay. So, and thanks go out to Ruth and Kathy as well for their support in making all of this happen and connecting us. It is really terrific. Now, by the way, for anyone in the audience, if you have a question that you want to pass on to Cecilia, just go ahead and type it in the chat log. Or just say hi and cheer her on, any of that. And I will try to pass the questions on to her later as we go. So before we get into your book, let's talk a bit about you. Cecilia, tell us a bit about your background and how it brought you to this place now.
Wow. When I think about my past and how I got to this stage, I realized that each step was preparing me for what I was going to do next. And sometimes we sum that up as resilience, because at the end of the day, I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of many things. I'm an alopecia survivor, a cancer survivor. I've had job losses. I've had, tremendous challenges. But through it all, I've managed to find ways to reinvent. And what I discovered over time, as I combined my corporate career with just my personal experiences, is that people gravitate and look for positivity. And that is the underlying reason for this book. When I started writing it a year ago, I couldn't have imagined where we would be in terms of a society today. And there's a lot of tumultuous change. And change is one of the most difficult things for people to navigate. But when I coach, whether it's with my friends or my clients, they're looking for that kernel of resourcefulness and ability to navigate. And I have a unique gift to be able to do that. I recognize that early in life, and this is my hope and attempt to share it so that people can step into their power.
Wow, fantastic, and you boy, you just hit everything right on the head there. We are in this time where there's so much negativity and change, and I think it's I can't remember if it's chapter 3 of your book where you kind of hit on this topic that people often see change only through a negative lens, or they just assume that it is negative. How do you help people deal with that? Like, how did what advice do you give people, or stories, or to help them understand that change, and it can be incredibly good. It's scary, but it can be incredibly good.
It can be. I am a music lover, so I think in song. And I think I mentioned in a book, when I listen to Sam Cooke sing "A Change Is Gonna Come," and another song that "Everything Must Change," it does. So that actually gives me comfort because I know that whatever it is, I'm going to get through it. But not everyone has that same sense of resiliency. And there are tactics and strategies that you can use to help build your confidence in those areas. One of the things I reference in the book is understanding that what change does is create a level of, sometimes we say, fear. You will hear people talk about fear of change. But in actuality, it's not just fear, because fear is your body's natural response to imminent danger. What you're really experiencing is a level of anxiety. And anxiety is something that we can do something about. Fear is catabolic, it's a natural body's natural reaction. You can't change that. But if I were able to give you a sense of control, a tool or a strategy that helped you control that anxiety, that's something you can manage. So, what works when you're feeling fear of change and the time is to think of something that you do have the ability to manage yourself. And that's what I talk about in the book.
Let's dive into that, because I think that those types of mechanisms are really incredible right now. Those techniques, because some people have an incredible level of anxiety over all sorts of things. Some of it is, it's their job, it's their personal relationships, it's the political environment, or it's, any number of things. And it just seems like everybody handles anxiety so differently. Like some people, it seems like they can just truck through anything
Mhm.
and you don't see any anxiety. Of course, you always wonder if it's like a duck, right? Where it's calm on the surface and it's underneath. But what is one or two tactics that people can use to help handle that anxiety?
That's a great question. One thing I always recommend is self-reflection, and think of a time where you successfully navigated a change in your life. I'm sure that everyone can reflect on something they've done in their past that they did really well, and try to remember what that was, the steps that you took, and most importantly, how it made you feel. Because if you can connect with those emotions and the steps you took to successfully get through that challenging time, basically you can just redeploy those similar tactics in your new situation. You're looking at it through your lens of positivity. I did that. Every time something happens, you need to take time to acknowledge the change, any grief and emotion that you're feeling, and then reflect on a time when you were successful at doing something and use that self talk to uplift how you see the challenge. And that's the beginning of shifting your mindset. Because what's really happening is that sometimes anxiety locks us into, we become frozen and we get locked into a similar way of thinking and a similar way of approaching situations. When at times all you really need is just a shift in how you do something. And then the other thing I want to bring attention to is the ability to be vulnerable. We hear that word a lot. And I'm going to tell you, as a woman of color, I got tired of hearing it. I didn't want to hear it. Be vulnerable. What do you mean by that? But it really does help if you can open up to someone that you trust, that you've built trusting relationships with, and just say, I don't feel safe. We need to learn how to understand when people that we love don't feel safe. What are the signs? And as a person going through a change or challenging time, I need to lock in on someone who can understand that about me. And accepting that level of vulnerability is another very important tool in helping you navigate change and anxiety.
Really excellent, Cecilia. Yeah, it's interesting because I know that one of the areas in your book you're talking about helping people understand or to gauge where they can be vulnerable, who they can be vulnerable with, because obviously it's scary, right? It's scary
Yes,
to open up and share those challenges, right?
it
So
is.
when you sat down, okay, what was your first inspiration? Actually, before we do this, let me. I need to. I need to do the obligatory thing of tell people where they can get the book. You can get the book today on Amazon, where actually both the paperback and the Kindle are available. And the Kindle, especially, is on a special launch price of just 99 cents. It will not be that way for long. So you're going to want to grab that now. Now, if you happen to be watching this on a recording and you've missed it, I apologize, but the book is worth everything you would pay for it. So by all means, do that. Also, I would say that this book particularly is teed up to be a great gift. There are people in your lives who know and who need this message. And this would be a terrific gift to give them. Um, and it, and Cecilia, as you see, has such great positivity that you just can't help but get sucked into what she's doing here, and you will love it, and your the recipients will love this as well. So please do that. Okay, so let's coming back here. What was your inspiration? What made you go, okay, I have this message. It's time to write a book. A lot of people think of writing a book. A lot of people dream of writing a book. A lot of people start writing a book. Very, very few people ever finish writing a book or see it published. So what kind of nudged you across that line?
Wow. So there are many ways to start to answer that question, but the first place I really want to start is how I grew up, because I was raised with the belief that to whom much is given, much is required. And I know that I need to use my gifts to help other people. So as I evolved in my career, as I evolved in my life, my passion and my personal mission is to make sure that anyone who comes in contact with me leaves feeling better about themselves. And I found that I was able to do that in my coaching practice. And that became further motivation for me to find ways to reach more people. As I gained more confidence in my coaching practice, and I just finished my 10th year of having my own company, I began to realize that I have powerful words and that those words can help people. So, one of the places that I really believe in and spend a lot of time in is in the pharmaceutical industry. And my very dear friend, Dr. Charlotte Burton, is just an incredible woman who founded an organization along with 7 or 8 other really, really top notch women in the industry to help focus on equity in healthcare. And I have been through a lot of challenges with my health, diagnosed with chronic leukemia during COVID year. I've seen my daughters have health challenges, and my people have significant challenges. So I am very passionate about health. And I was giving a keynote address to the organization, WASIP, and the reception that I received from a room of 300 plus women of color was enough to make me know that I needed to carry this message further. And I use that as a platform to keep me motivated and honest. When I put out in public, I'm going to write a book. And I, use the support from that group. They lifted me up during the year, and I completed this book in almost a year from the time I wrote my first 500 words.
Wow. So many people struggle with that. I remember one of the very first books we published. The When I first met the author, he said that he'd been working on the book for 3 years,
Mm.
and it wasn't ready. And we were doing some marketing things for him unrelated to a book. And then and 3 years later, he still had not finished that book. So I finally made a cover for him, put it on the book, and sent it to him, but it was empty on the inside. And I said, "Now you fill it." And it finally pushed him off the dime. So that you accomplish this in a year, by the way, is not a small accomplishment by any means. That you accomplished it at all, it's a huge accomplishment. Now, would you describe yourself as an optimist?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some people think, okay, you born that way? Possibly. But I believe that you can also nurture resiliency. And in my book, I have what I refer to as the Bloom equation. And that equation looks, the first half of it, there are 6 steps in the equation. And the first of it really focuses you on self-reflection, because you can't, without a plan, without a vision, without understanding who you are, it's difficult to get to what's next. So the first part of the equation is all about facing yourself, and I give you tools to do that. The second piece of it is facing fear and change, which we've talked about. And the third section in the first half is facing others. And that's where I talk about the importance of how we communicate. After you go through the first half of the book and you've done a total assessment of yourself, your skills, your values, your thoughts and emotions, then you're ready for the second half of the equation, which I call my 3 R's. The first being relationships. We don't get through this life alone. Relationships are so critical to how we move and maneuver. So I talk about the importance of the different types of relationships that you have in your life, whether those are your personal ones, your professional ones, your community, but we all are here connected to others. So without those, it's hard to get to the second R, which is resiliency. We will always have a point in time where we need to be resilient. My saying or quote for that is, life is what happens in between the things that you plan. We have the best plans, Everett, and planning is great. But you know what? Life has a way of interrupting them. Things are going to happen. As we say, stuff happens. And you need to learn how to navigate that. And the more relationships you have, the more resilient you can be. And that leads to the final R of the equation, which is reinvention. We have to reinvent ourselves. None of us are who we started out to be. There are people who can sometimes plan and maybe they say, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. And they know exactly the steps to take to do that. And some of us have a winding, more meandering way, an easier way for us to get to where we want to be. And wherever you are along that journey is okay. You have to know that it's okay. It's your journey. But what you want to understand is you can reinvent yourself. However you started out, whatever you were born into, or whatever you do, you don't have to stay there. And I talk about that a lot in the book.
Okay. So you made me kind of look back to your the what you called the 3 faces of self-empowerment. And right, those are facing yourself, facing change, and facing others. Is there one of those that you think people struggle the most with?
Absolutely. I struggled with it. Let me just start with my personal journey, some of which I share in the book. Facing yourself. Boy, I even talk about it with my kids. I have 5 children, and each are in their stages of blooming. But one of the things that I notice is we often have times looking in that mirror. So I do an exercise in the book where I ask the reader to just unmask. You have to get to that person behind the facade that we present to the world every day. And that's really hard to do because there might be some elements of truth and things that we need to face that are very difficult. So I do a couple of exercises that help you to unmask yourself. And I remember when I certified as a coach, similar to what you do when you are getting licensed as a therapist, you have to go through your own coaching journey. And I had to face some of my gremlins. I call that naysayer, that person, little person that sits on my shoulder that causes doubt, that tells me that I'm not good enough, that tells me that I can't do something. I gave her a name. I call her Little Cece. And whenever I'm feeling that I can't overcome something, I look at her, I personalize her, and I was like, not today, girl. You are not taking me down. So that's one of my personal ways of addressing myself, because at the end of the day, we are the thing that's in our way of getting to where we want to be.
Wow. Do you, we talked about one that's hardest facing yourself. Is there one that's most undervalued? Like, do people look at that and go, oh, the others part, that's not so important, or like, do people? You ever see that?
Wow, you are asking some great
I
questions, Ever.
know,
I love
I
that.
know, and for the sake of anyone watching this, understand that it's like we did not like cut like I'm throwing stuff at Cecilia that we didn't discuss at all. So just
I
anyway,
like that.
thank you.
I love
Keeping
that.
me on your
Thank you.
toes, which is amazing because honestly, I have the opportunity to interview a lot of people, right, and very accomplished people. And Cecilia, you are, boy, you have got you know your stuff and you present it so well.
Oh, thank you, Everett. It's passion, I tell you. So, one of the things that people, I believe, overlook a great deal is the ability to communicate, and it really is facing others. We think we're communicating really well, when sometimes what we really need to do are think of the elements that go into communicating, whether that's listening. We like to talk, and I know I'm guilty of it. I can talk all day long, but you have to be careful to make sure that the person you're communicating with is really understanding what you're saying. And that means sometimes you have to be a better listener. The person that's the quietest in the room sometimes can be the most powerful. So understand how to use silence. Understand how to make your voice heard without shouting over another person. Recognizing when you need to stop, recognizing when more is required. So, communication is one of the most underrated tools that we can, again, train ourselves to use better. And thinking about the message, you need to give thought to what those words mean, because words are so powerful and you can't take them back. My daughter is fond of saying that to me, especially when I'm saying something she doesn't want to hear. I'm going to play around with that. But as a parent, there are times that we think we know it all. So just imagine that you're out there and you know what's best. But sometimes if you listen and allow others' voices to come to you, you actually can get to yes faster. I learned that doing improv. I am trained in improv. I love doing it. I incorporate it in my practice, because learning how to say something simple as yes and being more agreeable and communicating can lead to more collaboration. And believe me, we need more of that in the world today, Everett.
No kidding. Speaking of collaboration, if people want to reach out to you to come speak to their organization, to come work with them, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Absolutely. Just visit my website, www.thestrategychick.com. And there's a section there that you can click on for the calendar and make a quick appointment with me, and use my web. You can hit on inquiries and that will come directly to me. So those are the best ways to reach out to me, and you will definitely get a response.
All right, wonderful. Now, so let me remind everybody that the book is available right now. You can pick up Bloom on Amazon, where you can pick up the paperback or the Kindle, and that the Kindle is on a special launch price. And make sure to get a copy, not just for yourself, but make sure to pick up one or two as gifts for others. I think that you will be thanked for doing that. So, Cecilia, we're down to just the last couple minutes here, and I'd love to find out who you had in mind when you wrote the book. Some people have a very broad demographic in mind when they sit down to write a book. Other people, it's something different. Who did you have in mind?
Thank you for asking that. I'm a Black woman. I'm a woman of color, And I have seen and experienced so many things from the time, and I talk about this as well, when I was young, um, as being one of the first or the first Black girl to integrate my elementary school, to being the first Black girl to graduate from my high school, the first in my family to graduate from college, and have many of these moments. Well, when you're the first at things like that and you don't have someone to follow, you recognize the importance of providing and sharing that experience with people who are like you. So, my primary audience for this book are women, Black women, women of color, but many of the stories that I share are relatable to women and men as well. You will see I have an endorsement from my cousin, Mike Wilbon, who we grew up together. And Mike has, as we like to say, elevated in the world of journalism. He's an amazing commentator and journalist. And I like the fact that I could reach out to him and get his support in telling my story. I think there's a responsibility that we both share coming up in the type of family that we did to help other people. And our parents, our mothers, our forefathers taught us that. And I am simply carrying that message forward. I lost my mom 5 years ago. My Aunt Cleo, Mike's mother, passed away 3 years ago. But I know that they are up there cheering us. And I know that this book, the work that we do, comes from that well of passion and how I grew up. I'm simply bringing it forward. And the last thing what I really want for my readers to experience is to know that there's someone who cares. There's so many of us, as I said, I don't care who you are, what color you are, that are hurting right now. And if you find a kernel of support in this book, then my job's well done.
And very well said as well. Now, to wrap up, I thought I would share some well wishes that I've seen come in on the chat. Um, the Louise Hill said, "Congratulations, so exciting and so inspiring." Malia congratulated you on a copy of the book. Zelda as well. And then I thought this was great. It looks like Camden chimed in, said, "So proud of you, Mom, the strongest woman I know." And I even see Cindy here saying, "Sis, so proud of you."
Thank you.
So wanted to share those with you. Thank you so much for coming on this live cast, and also, of course, entrusting us, Ignite Press, with your book. You really have been a joy to work with. And by the way, I will tell the people in the audience that Cecilia is someone who walks the talk. She doesn't just talk about positivity. She is positive. She embodies positivity, and that's happened. I've just seen that, Cecilia, with you as we've worked through the process of publishing a book, because publishing a book is a process. So thank you for that and for the hard work that you've done.
Thank you so much, Everett. It's been my pleasure. Absolutely.
All right. And we'll just direct everybody, get a copy of the book.
Buy the book.
That's right. And you can go to thestrategychick.com. I'll put it in the comments to reach out to Cecilia. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So there you go. And if we can help you here at Ignite Press, reach out. We'd be honored to help carry your message to the world. And whether you've already written a book or you've just thought of writing a book and one day you want to write a book, just reach out. One way or another, we will find a way to help you get that message to the world. So thanks again for joining us today.